Well, I may just have fixed the CD player in my wife's Toyota Corolla. This seems to be a very common fault with CD players in these cars from sort of 2000 onwards, that eventually it stops reading the disc, or it starts to skip, and then eventually it gives you an error message. It just comes at error message 1 or something like that anyway. I didn't really pay much attention to it at the time. But we're faced with a long trip this weekend, so I figured I should hop in and have a look. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to get the CD player out of the dashboard, but there's quite a lot involved in that. There's a very good video up by a user called Enfig Stereo, E-N-F-I-G, which shows you how to dismantle the dash and get the CD player loose. And from that point onwards, getting into the CD player is relatively simple. But I'll just turn the volume up. Previously it wouldn't play, it wouldn't recognise the disc, or it would play 3 or 4 seconds then just stop. And yet we're now 5 seconds into or 5 minutes into one of the tracks. Seems fairly happy. So I'm going to show you what it is, or what I think the problem was. And that is just that one of the little ribbon cables down inside the drive, which attaches the CD server arm to the main controller board, was loose, or it seemed to be loose. It popped out very, very quickly when I was just investigating it. Now I'm just going to put the camera down while I disconnect the two wires, or the 2 cable looms on the back of the drive. So I've taken a couple of the sets of the screws out so I can lift this top plate off, just avoid that spring there. There's a couple of very small springs in this unit, so I'll be very careful when you take it out, because they will ping somewhere and you will never find them again. So should have ejected the disc the traditional method. But that is the ribbon cable down there, which goes to the servo mechanism. And if that's not making good connectivity, or if it's slightly squiffy, then it could, in theory, interfere with the tracking, which would give the same result as I was having. A lot of the forums online say, oh, it's your laser pickup, but having fixed a few CD players over the years, the standard cry is always the laser pickup, and in many cases it just simply isn't. But that's the magic, mystical part that's kind of expensive and hard to replace, so people tend to fixate on that. As I say, this has been working now for about 10 minutes. It seems to be fairly... It's worked better in the last 10 minutes than it's worked in the last year. It's taken me about 2 hours to get into this, into the car, and into the stereo itself. The actual CD mechanism in this is just this top tray here. These clips on the front just pop off, and you can take the whole fascia board off. It just comes off in one unit. There's no cables, there's just some connectors facing back, and there are just 2 screws which holds the entire CD mechanism into the actual lump of the stereo. So let's see if I can get this off one-handed. That is when you really want a tripod. Bear with me a second. So this just pops straight off, and that's how it connects to the main unit. It's that little connector there, if this is ever going to focus. There we go. So of the screws, only these 2, it's really struggling with focus in this dim light. Of these 4 screws, it's only the upper 2, so that screw there and that screw there, that hold the CD unit in place. Then it just lifts straight out, and that should let you get to the underside of the of where the ribbon cable goes. There's that really tiny spring there. You probably can't, it's not even going to focus on that, it's so small. And it does tend to get out of alignment quite quickly. There's spring mounts there and spring mounts there that all sort of pop off, so it's worth taking some photos as you come in here, just so you know what the original state was. And yeah, trace the underside of that cable and plug it back into the board. Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I could find wrong with this. So yeah, thought I'd put this up. It might save a few people a lot of aggro trying to find a replacement stereo for a car that's probably getting on 10 years old and not really worth spending many hundreds for a new stereo on. So yeah, good luck.